Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Positional Sports Talk Show Post. Live streaming on Facebook Live, Twitch, and our Positional Sports Talk Show YouTube channel. We are a sports talk show made for the fans, from the perspective of fans, presented by lifelong sports fans. We will provide our opinions and positions on the hottest topics in sports. My name is Big Reg, and I'm joined this evening by my partners in crime. How y'all fellas doing this evening? What's going on, J3?
Feeling good, feeling good. Let's get it in.
We got the professor in the building. What's going on, professor? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. Just trying to hang in there, y'all. Just all this news, man. But praise the Lord anyhow. Let's get started.
We got Ed in the building. What's going on, Big Ed? How you feeling today, brother?
I actually feel pretty good tonight. Ready to talk sports. Let's do it.
And we'll be joined later on in the show, hopefully, by our man Jay Wills. But we're going to get it popping. This week, we will talk about the NFL divisional round and conference championship preview, do a little NBA update, got to talk a little UFC, our post takes, and a couple other topics that caught our attention, and of course, our final post of the evening. We appreciate you tuning in, so sit back, relax, and enjoy Post on the Positional Sports Talk Show channel. So, fellas, we had another good weekend. Wasn't as good as weekend one in the playoffs, but we had some good games over in the divisional round. You weren't impressed?
No, I ain't gonna say I wasn't impressed. There was some outcomes that I wasn't happy with, but there were some good games to watch.
We started off Saturday with a couple of games. The first game, unfortunately, wasn't a real good game, and unfortunately, the Rams didn't have a quarterback. The Green Bay Packers beat the LA Rams 32-18, and while Aaron Rodgers did what Aaron Rodgers does, and he did his thing, 3 total touchdowns, almost 300 yards passing. When the Rams don't have probably the most dominant inside defensive player possibly ever in the NFL, but definitely in the last decade, Aaron Donald at full strength, and you can see there was only a shell of Aaron Donald that went out on that field. Mm-hmm. That rib injury severely hindered his ability to play. And without Aaron Donald, that Rams defense is terrible. Terrible. And then you can add on your boy Jared Goff with a bad thumb while playing with the glove. He played a little better, but he's still playing injured. So, what y'all think of the game? I just thought that we all picked Green Bay to win anyway, but let me hear y'all thoughts.
I don't think the Rams actually came in with a game plan. To me, they couldn't figure it out if they were going to try to run the ball or if they were going to try to throw the ball. And when Goff did throw the ball, again, like you said, his accuracy wasn't 100% because of his thumb. So it was like, I don't know. To me, it just seemed like the Rams didn't have a clue. I don't think they were prepared to come out and perform like they should have.
So I wasn't expecting much from this game. When I heard that, in the injury report that Aaron Donald was not going to be 100%, and on top of that, that Goff. Let's remember he's 3 weeks removed from thumb surgery, not a sprained thumb surgery. And then you're dealing with the elements as far as the weather is concerned. I just didn't expect much. And I didn't get much. Actually, I thought this game was probably the most disappointing, but not from a performance perspective, because I actually thought the Rams tried. They actually played a pretty decent game considering what they were dealing with. I thought it would be much worse than this as far as the score is concerned, and it turned out just like I thought it would. Aaron Rodgers, he had 2 touchdowns passed and 1 rushing. So he did look good, but I think the most surprising thing that I got out of this was that I was surprised how well their offensive line played for Green Bay, considering they lost their all-pro left tackle Bakhtari a couple weeks ago to an ACL injury. I actually thought their running game was really powerful. Again, now we know Aaron Donald didn't play, but I thought the running game was actually what won the game for him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Ed said. I really didn't expect much out of this game. I thought that the Rams would be overmatched. I mean, even with a healthy Aaron Donald, I just felt like the Green Bay offense would just have enough to be able to score points and win the game. The matchup that I was looking, forward to was Jalen Ramsey against Adams. And of course, early in the game, I mean, it was top billing. Adams really didn't get off like that. And, Rodgers had to go to his other targets, but they really didn't have an answer for Lazard. I mean, he kind of just ripped them for big plays, throughout the game. And there was really no answer to stop him. And then once Green Bay just kept the running game churning, man, I mean, it was pretty much over. They didn't get any pressure on Rodgers most of the night. Right. Their guys were getting blasted off the line. I mean, you didn't hear nothing from Brockers, nothing from the other guy on the other side. It was just like, I mean, they showed up. Yeah, you got your kudos for beating the Seahawks, but now it was like, move out the way. And that's exactly what happened to them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the lack of pressure up front without Donald was just startling. I mean, they were the number one defense in the league in multiple categories and overall. And then you can't even stop the run without him. Yeah, just shame on them. So that led us to the nightcap. And I think most of us are really interested in seeing this game. You had two quarterbacks who were drafted in the same draft, both ascending young stars, a former NFL MVP, and now you've got the possible soon-to-be future MVP with the Buffalo Bills against the Baltimore Ravens. So we wanted to see, the Ravens were on a hot streak, the Bills were on a hot streak, who could impose their will on the other and, make it to the AFC Championship game. And, I mean, Bills win 17-3. And, again, in my opinion, the coaching staff of the Ravens got tight again, had a terrible game plan. And yes, Lamar didn't play well at all. But when you start the first half, and I believe there was 18 out of 20 plays you called were run plays or run options, they went last year, they tried to throw the ball all around the field in the first half and didn't run a run. This year, they say, we're just going to run and not throw the ball. No, you got to do both. I understand Bills' defense, people were running on them, but you got to back some people up a little bit. I mean, I just thought the coaching staff, the offense coordinator, all of them did a horrible job for the third year in a row. And they need to do some real thinking about changing that because Lamar isn't developing and they can't get past real good teams that can game plan a little bit.
My feeling with this game was I was so disappointed in, like you said, Big Reg, the game plan. I mean, maybe they need to call up Jim Caldwell because to me, that's the last time they really had an offense that was really, humming. They game plan for their opponent. It wasn't always just about the Ravens defense. You have this generational talent at quarterback, and I hate to say it, y'all, but they wasting them because they're not putting things in place. It has taken him 3 years just to develop, to even throw the ball just a little bit, relying too much on his legs. And like you say, run. Then when he had to pass the ball, what did he do in the red zone? He threw an interception right in the end zone. And these are the types of things that if you don't come in, and this is why I'm going to just say it, Eric Bieniemy, a type of coach that's offensive minded that can coach up a quarterback. And when you look at people like Byron Leftwich, and I know we don't want to touch more on it this week, but they have the pulse of the black quarterback. They can get a game plan that's going to fit the needs of a black mobile quarterback that he has an arm, but you have to teach him how to use it. And then he gets knocked out of the game, and then everything was done from there. You don't really have the running game going. Their defense was just pinning their ears back at that point and just flying all over the field. I mean, where is the receiver of note in this offense? You got Hollywood Brown. I mean, he okay. He like a third type wide receiver that you can rely on in the clutch. But who's their number one receiver? That's that.
They
dog?
don't have one.
Right.
They don't have one.
That's all I wanted somebody to say. And this offense just sputters when it's in big game situations. And you just can't throw an entire team on your quarterback's back and tell him to go out and win the game every week. That doesn't happen in the playoffs.
And before you guys jump in, because I want all y'all to jump in on this, I want to hear people talking about Lamar can't throw the ball. He passed for 10,000 yards in college. Stop it. Stop it. He led the league in touchdown passes last year and had the best from the pocket pass percentage in the NFL last year. So stop it. It's not his fault. But what they asked him to do and the people they have helping him to do it are terrible. All right. Go ahead, Jay Wills. She's going to jump in.
I've never heard someone refer to the Baltimore Ravens organization as terrible. That's a new one for me. And that leads me to my statement, honestly. I do think he's a generational talent, but I think ultimately the problem, yes, they definitely need some more receivers. You definitely need some guys catching the ball, no doubt about it. But it seems to me individuals who are explosive quarterbacks, they tend to run into these issues just because they can they can run. He's an explosive athlete. He doesn't need to stay in the pocket. He'll never be too comfortable going through his reads when he can leap out the backfield for 60, 70 yards every time. So it often makes me wonder, is his athletic ability, a lot of gentlemen like him, does the fact that they can do anything they want, tuck the ball and go, does that ultimately hurt them as a passer? And I think it does. Granted, he did have those yards, but did he have those yards because they was in fear of the play action? Was it all drop back passes? Did the defense didn't know what to do? Because if they're all expecting you to run, and they run a not a dime, but I forget what it's called, when they're in not necessarily a prevent defense, but when they're expecting to run, they're going to all press up. The minute you run play action, you got to find somebody. So I wonder about Lamar's future, and are these people going to really commit to developing an offense that suits him? And if they do, does it ultimately limit them because you can only do so much because he's going to eventually want to run? He doesn't go through 3 progressions to me. I think he's an excellent quarterback, but after that first or second progression, or that guy that's holding up his block the best way on that right side or that left side, he's peeling out of that backfield. That's that's his comfort zone. So I think he's going to have to get past a stage in his mind first to develop that part of his game.
But so that's coaching. You making my point. That's coaching.
Yeah, but what about the receivers?
To him every day at practice, eventually he has to take it in. You're a teacher. I can teach you 1,000 times. I can break it down to you. But if you don't apply the information, then that ultimately isn't my fault. I'm pretty sure as a teacher, you had to fail somebody. Did you not teach it well enough for them to get an A?
Well, you're talking about star players and their ability to do something that you actually coach them up to do. If you're going to use that scenario, then the answer is no. If you know that a student has a particular aptitude in a particular area, you feed it in a way that you help them to grow. If they deny it, then that's not on you as a coach. But when you're at this level, he didn't get to the pros because he pushed away or shunned coaching. So that's my point. They haven't had an offensive mind in there that's able to mold a particular type of quarterback since Jim Caldwell. Look at what happened to Joe Flacco after Caldwell left that organization. He became the head coach of the Lions. Look at the progression or the sinking that happened to Joe Flacco, right? If you have a mind in there that's going to coach him up the way that he needs to go, he's going to resist the need to run all the time. And if you give him the weapons that he needs, he won't have to rely on his physical ability in order to get out of the pocket and do things. He's going to fake it. He's going to throw it. But you have to give him those things in order for him to be able to progress. If he doesn't progress.
His extreme talent, him, Michael Vick, and others, it gets abused.
But Michael Vick developed as a passer, though, later in his career.
It took time. It took getting suspended.
And it took coaching.
Getting hurt.
Andy Reid.
And it was more than Andy Reid. Andy Reid put an offense around him, but it still wasn't enough to get them over the hump. But you're talking about a 30-year-old grown man with kids. He was at a completely different point in his life.
Maybe that's where Lamar needs to get.
Young Michael Vick still would have ran all over the field. It's too easy for him to do, is what I'm saying. And I think on the NCAA ranks, they abuse it. That once you get to the NFL, it's not that they don't know how to play quarterback. Clearly they do. But it's such a powerful part of their game, and it's so unmatched. And what it ultimately does, it makes it easier for defenses to plan against you.
Can I bring up one small statistic? The current offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens was also the offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers when Kaepernick was there. For the 3 years that Kaepernick started, and the 3 years that Lamar has been starting, that he's been running things, they have had a top 5 rushing attack. And all of the 6 years that he's had quarterbacks like this, he has had a bottom 10 passing attack.
Does that all?
Okay.
Yes, it can reflect on the coach, but doesn't it reflect on the player?
That's all we saying, Jay.
Okay, all right. So here's my take on this. First, the game. I can't really say anything bad about Baltimore's this game. It probably played out the way I thought it was going to play out. The defense for Baltimore deserved better. They only gave up 10 points. And in reality, it's nothing can be said bad. Nothing can be said that the defense, they couldn't have did anything else. So let's move on from that. So the reason they lost the game, of course, obviously was the offense. But let's back up for a minute. I agree with everything all three of you guys have said so far as you, Professor J, you, Kyrie, because I'm late, and you, Big Reg.
Thank you.
I agree with. But let us not forget the past. A year ago, when Lamar was running through the league and accumulating video game numbers, we sat here on this show. Most of us sat on here in the show and praised the Baltimore Ravens organization as far as how they have put together the proper structure in order to buy into Lamar being their quarterback. So let's remember that. So now, a year later, we can't go back and say, well, they don't have the right people in place. I agree. I don't think necessarily they have the right people in place, because if you take Lamar, for example, and Josh Allen, they came out the same draft, about 20-some picks apart. Josh Allen and Lamar, except their skin color and their body type, was pretty much the same quarterback in college. The same narrative about Josh Allen. The reason he didn't go number one and Baker Mayfield did in that draft was not because he didn't have the physical tools, because they said he was more of a runner. He couldn't hit the side of a barn. His accuracy was a mess. But Buffalo's Sean McDermott had a plan in place, and he pulled the young man out of Alabama to be their offensive coordinator and develop, who was a quarterback coach at heart in New England, to pull him away from Alabama and tutor and teach their young quarterback how to play professional level football. And as a result, you see what we're seeing now in Josh Allen, who really is just Lamar light. If you think about it, he's not as fast. He likes to run. He's not necessarily an accurate passer. So with all that being said, I do think it's necessary if Baltimore wants to move forward, they need to find the proper coach and put him in place and instruct Lamar how to play the game. Now, will he be open as Kyrie, because I'm late, said? Will he be open to coaching? We don't know. As far as the talent is concerned, I think it's going to be really difficult to acquire a top flight first rate receiver unless they did like Buffalo did and surrender 2 number ones to get them. And why I say that? I say that because a receiver, a top flight free agent receiver, is not going to want to come to Baltimore because it's a bad business decision as we currently stand. It's a bad business decision. Why would you want to come to Baltimore unless you're severely overpaid when you have no chance of potentially getting another contract if Lamar is not properly brought along and developed a little further? So, so there's a mix. So I agree with everything everyone said in a way, but I just think that Lamar has as much responsibility of his future as do the Ravens if they're going to move forward together in this marriage. And we're going to find out very soon because Lamar is, I believe, eligible for a contract at the end of extension at the end of this. I think now, actually, I think he's 2 years out. So yeah, I think So we're going to find out how serious Baltimore is. If Greg Roman is the offensive coordinator moving forward next year, then we know the answer to that. No, he will not be the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens moving forward.
You brought up a great point. The Buffalo not only brought in an offensive coordinator, and I think Greg Roman can help. And I'm not saying throw everything away that he did, but they need to continue enhancing. But what did they do? They committed 2 first-round picks to get that man a dominant number 1 receiver. And what that did was open up all the other receivers. J3's favorite receiver in the slot was open all year because they had that monster on the outside that they had to double cover. So he needs a number 1. And they've also got to upgrade the offensive line because a lot of people are talking about it. Losing Marshall Yonder, a probably Hall of Fame guard who retired. The reason why Lamar is running after his first and second read is because the pocket was collapsing all the time. So, number 1 receiver, offensive lineman, and I think the Ravens are right back at it.
I hope so. I definitely root for the young man. I root for any individual in his position with his particular talent. I really do, because I think that's a major issue of why black quarterbacks aren't completely all over the NFL, because a lot of the coaching staffs and the organizations feel like that type of offense can't flourish in the NFL. And I don't believe he has a problem with coaches. That's not my outlook. I ultimately think it's an internal battle with all of these QBs. You're trying to reinvent the wheel in their mind, and it's just hard. I think they're just reverting back to what naturally works for them. And for the most part, for LeVar and your Mikes, it works. Running actually works. It's just that when you get into these clutch moments, when the defenses can dial in and they got a season worth of tape, it just makes it harder. But I completely agree with you all, and I'll definitely keep my eyes out for it.
But how did he end his season? With a concussion, right? So he got the same body type as RG3 and a lot of other slight and fast quarterbacks. He can't be running out of the pocket all the time, especially in a playoff situation.
He didn't get hurt. He didn't get hurt running out the pocket. He got hurt because the center couldn't snap the ball and snapped it sideways, and he was trying to get the ball and was running back trying to get the ball that was a bad snap and then trying to just throw it away. He didn't get hurt getting out of the pocket.
Reg, if you listen to me, I'm talking about his body type and how if he takes certain hits, doesn't matter how the hit happened. If he gets hit, he can get hurt. That's all I'm saying.
That's the type of stuff he's going to have to tell himself. I'm sure people are telling him. He's seen Mike Vick's story. He's seen everybody's story. I'm sure 1,000 people have told him to get down. But when you shatter NFL records and set new ones by having 2 1,000-yard rushing seasons from the quarterback position, the problem is you want to run. It ain't just that the play is set up for that. That is your strength. I can literally burn most of these dudes to the end zone. and he turns around and literally burns most of them dudes to the end zone. He is a freak on wheels.
Right.
It's going to take a lot to change his game. You almost
But
have
up
to
until this
stop
date, how many of them won a Super Bowl? How many of them won it all?
Russell Wilson.
Well, there's only been a handful of them.
Oh,
so you
Russell
can't
Wilson
use
is a passer. I mean, Russell Wilson can pass. I mean, he runs when it's absolutely necessary, but he can pass. So that's not even a good comparison.
You brought up concussions. Concussions brings us to the first game on Sunday: Kansas City Chiefs versus the Cleveland Browns. Everybody picked the Chiefs, but there was a little concern with was the Chiefs going to be a little rusty after not playing most of their regular offensive players for 3 weeks. And quite honestly, that offense was humming. Most people don't realize that the Chiefs didn't punt the ball at all in that game.
Wow.
Ever. Even after Mahomes got concussed, they still never punted the ball. But they had their kicker miss an extra point. They had their kicker miss a 33-yard field goal, similar to what happened with the Ravens when their kicker missed 2 field goals. But they was just churning around, and the Chiefs were doing something different that most people didn't expect. They were taking what the Browns were giving them on defense and methodically going up and down the field every time they got the ball, and they were either getting the end zone or they were scoring the field goal, but they were scoring every time. And then your boy Mahomes tries to do a quarterback option, and it was the horse collar, not the horse collar, the chokehold that the defensive linebacker got him around the neck that knocked him out. I don't think it was that he hit his head too much, but the way he wrenched his neck and then drove it into the ground, that was lights out. So, but you got to give Kansas City credit. I don't know about y'all. I thought that game was over once Mahomes left early in the third quarter. I was like,
Well,
Baker got his chance. Baker got his chance. I said, Baker can prove not only does he earn his 5th-year option, Baker can get his contract extension. He win this game, take him to the AFC Championship. But
Hey, I thought that was blood in the water too, but Myles Garrett looked like he had what Donald had. Like he was just gimpy the whole game, in and out, and they couldn't really get a pass rush going. I mean, you let him come in there.
But what do y'all think about Andy Reid's 4th and 1 with a backup quarterback? I mean, that took.
But that's Andy Reid. I remember saying when he called it, I was like, "That's Andy Reid. He gonna do it."
I mean, it's do or die. You either put up or shut up, and he wasn't ready to go home, so you got to go for it.
Right.
And your offense is clicking.
That's Andy Reid.
But so I actually paid close attention to Kansas City for the first 11 games of the year. That's before the wheels fell off of Pittsburgh. So I actually paid attention. So I actually watched a few of their games. I mean, it was relevant at the time. You know what I'm saying? It was relevant. So I actually so this game was kind of like a lot of their games this year. They had a couple offensive explosion games where they just buried teams, but for the most part, they played just good enough to win football games. That's how they ended up losing a couple games along the way, is because it was just like they was playing, we'll score anytime we want. That attitude is good when you have the best quarterback in the league at your disposal. But when the best quarterback in the league goes out with a concussion, well, now you have to rethink things. But I give Andy Reid credit, like J3 alluded to just a few seconds ago. It was do or die. Andy Reid knows his bread and butter, his career is built on offense. He's going to live and die with it, and that's one of the reasons he had some classic, some monumental failures in Philadelphia, is because he did not necessarily have a generational talent throwing forward passes for him in Philadelphia. No disrespect to Donovan McNabb. But all I'm saying is Andy Reid gets it, and I like that the entire narrative has changed since he got to Kansas City, since he inherited or drafted and molded and groomed a generational talent at quarterback, now you can see the real Andy Reid. And I just give him 100% top flight credit for doing that play. Was I shocked about the play? Yes, because you can't play hindsight. In hindsight, I wouldn't have been shocked. But because I didn't have that when I was watching the game play out, it was a surprise. It was a surprise. But I didn't think the Browns were going to beat them at any point during the game. Something told me something would go off the rails with the Browns, and they would classically blow it. But they had a good season, and actually Baker Mayfield didn't play too bad in this game.
Now,
Unfortunately, when
Everything
they got
said except Donovan McNabb. We'll debate about it another day.
when the Browns had the ball with 4 minutes left in the game or 5 minutes left in the game, that was the time for Baker Mayfield to push the ball down the field. Unfortunately, at that time, the offensive line didn't hold up. He couldn't look at second and third options. So you really saw his potential, whether he was able to move the ball or not. I mean, he literally just crumbled instead of trying to take off, like you said, or stay in the pocket or just throw it away. I mean, he just had no time. And so when they ended up punting the ball, that was ball game. They didn't get the ball back.
Well, to not to defend Baker, but Baker did lose his left tackle in that game, and they had a couple injuries along the left side of that offensive line. So they were going. I know you believe that everybody gets paid, so they should be able to perform. I already know, J3. I already know. But they did have they did have some issues as far as injury along the left side of that offensive line. So yeah.
I just want to point out one other thing about Andy Reid. Andy Reid is going to be hosting his third conference championship at home with Kansas City in a row.
In Philly.
And the only other coach that did that was Andy Reid in Philadelphia.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
It's a bad man. It's a bad man. It's good that he getting his shine, and now that he got that Super Bowl ring, he's showing his behind when he get a chance.
Was the Super Bowl that Philadelphia recently won worth getting rid of Andy Reid, you think?
To them, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was time for him to move on from Philly anyway.
Yeah.
I agree.
His message was getting stale. There was some front office stuff going on, as we see with the coach that just left, who was in charge, who had the power. So it was a good move. And then we ended Sunday night with what I affectionately call the retirement bowl, where you had the Tampa Bay Bucks against the New Orleans Saints. And I believe I might have been the only person in this crew that said that Tampa was going to get that payback.
You were. Agree.
You definitely were.
You
I
were.
did not agree.
But I'm gonna tell you, as I was watching the game, I actually can recall earlier in the season where you actually predicted the Tampa Bay was going to be in the final game.
He did.
I do recall that. So I mean, props off to you, bro. You called it.
I just think that after that bye week, you had a meeting of the minds between Brady, no risk it, no biscuit, and the offensive coordinator, and they slowly developed and moved the offense more toward what Brady was comfortable with,
Thank goodness.
while still throwing it down the field every now and then, but doing what he's comfortable with. And that was a treat to watch Brady. And he struggled in the first quarter and a half. He wasn't looking good. Matter of fact, neither one of the quarterbacks looked good in that first quarter and a half. And then the second half, after Brady started hollering at people, he got them going, and they took over. But, I mean, I want to talk about Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees is one of the finest quarterbacks ever to play in the NFL that used his limited athletic ability, because Drew Brees is not a super athlete, didn't let his short stature, his height, limit him, and he got with a right quarterback who developed an offense that allowed him to flourish, and he should go down as one of the finest QBs ever to play this game. But it's time. Next week he should be in the booth commentating and not thinking about playing again because he can't throw the ball past 15 yards anymore.
Well,
And
not
I
only
know-
that, even,
Major,
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Go
go ahead.
he was.
I know
such-
that. Go ahead. Go ahead, J3.
I was just gonna say, man, it just seemed like even when he attempted to throw the ball down the field, his receivers was dropping them left and right. So I mean, you can't put all the offensive foes on him because he was throwing the ball and they just weren't catching it.
Yeah, I just want to co-sign Big Red. Shout out to the magnificent career of Drew Brees, getting injured, bouncing back, and becoming the inspiration for a city that needed somebody to root for. Tyrann Mathieu, the cornerback, who is a New Orleans native, tweeted, I believe he either tweeted or Instagram, who knows what the kids are doing nowadays. He wrote a post basically thanking Drew Brees for all he did for his city as a kid. You know, he was basically saying he came to our city, gave us everything he had, and brought us a Super Bowl. So not only does he go down in football history, but he goes down in New Orleans history. Them people will never forget him. He will forever be able to get a free meal wherever he is when he's down there. So shout out to Drew Brees for his career, for his sustainability, his determination to bounce back past injury and become an inspiration to others. We should all seek to be more like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well said, Pop.
Agreed. Agreed.
This game was a bad football game, though, fellas. It was hard. It was hard to watch because in your mind, you know, and I talk about this with these older quarterbacks, Brady, Braves, Roethlisberger, Rivers. These guys have been so dominant for so long that they're mentally. I don't think they ever lose the mental cockiness or confidence that they could perform, but physically, as we witnessed on the field and at the Superdome, they just don't have it. And it's not necessarily only Brees that doesn't necessarily have it anymore. I don't believe Brady has much left. I think Brady is surrounded by an extraordinary amount of talent on that team, and they cover up a lot of his flaws. If you take the run game away from Tampa, you know, and the superior blocking, well, they have issues with their left tackle, but the B plus blocking that Brady has, he just doesn't have it anymore either. But again, they're so mentally sharp that they can overcome any or in these older guys' cases a lot of physical limitations that they have now. But the game was bad, man. It was bad football. And I know Troy Aikman, he was calling the game and he was talking about, well, you know, any young quarterback tuning in, they need to pay attention to these two quarterbacks. Well, they need to maybe go back and get the coach's 22 film of 10 years ago of these two quarterbacks. they will see elite quarterbacking at its highest level. But at this point in time, both of the guys that were on Mercedes-Benz Superdome field the other night were shells of themselves.
So you think Brady should hang it up after this year too, Ed? Is that what you said?
I think he should, but he probably won't. I think he'll probably squeeze one more year out. I just see it, and particularly if I don't see the backup plan or the succession plan in place in Tampa for anything other than Brady coming back next year. So I think he should. I think all of the quarterbacks that I mentioned, the B's, the Brady's, the Brees, the Roethlisberger, I think they all should hang it up this year. But I know they have financial motivation to continue. Except Brees, I think Brees' contract is over this year. I can be wrong with that.
I hear you. So let's talk about who we like next week. So you got the NFC Championship, which is Sunday 3:00, Green Bay, Tampa Bay. You got the GOAT of all time against possibly, arguably, the greatest physical person to play the position of quarterback, albeit Patrick Mahomes may overtake him. Brady against that bad man Aaron Rodgers.
No contest. Green Bay gonna smash them.
You do realize that Tampa Bay crushed Green Bay week 6 of this season. Matter of
What was
fact,
that game
both of
at?
the championship games,
So
both of the championship games are rematches. Okay, so you get J3 got Green Bay smashing them. Okay,
absolutely.
I got Green Bay. It's going to be 25 degrees and cold. No team from the South, particularly Tampa. I'm sure they in short Bermuda shorts right now. They're not going up to Green. They're not going up to Green Bay and win. Now the league did try to set Tom Brady up for another championship by putting the game at 3:00 instead of at night. So that's going to be a little better. At least the sun's going to be out. But I don't see the Green Bay is going to. Tampa Bay is going to win this game. I mean, I'm sorry, Green Bay is going to win this game. I said Green Bay. I'm sorry, it was a brain freeze.
who you got, Jay Wills?
My mind says Green Bay, but my heart says don't bet against Brady. I'm confused. I'm literally confused. He's a dog. He's a gamer. He's very used to this situation. He got the rings to show it. He is the pedigree. This ain't no walkthrough. I've been here before, baby. So my heart is jumping. It's like maybe go with Brady, but my mind does say Aaron Rodgers is on fire this year. If his line breaks down, he'll just pull out some more magic like he does from time to time. He has one of the most beautiful balls I've ever seen thrown in my life. So I say Green Bay, but it's a soft Green Bay. It's a soft Green Bay.
How about you, Professor?
Yeah, Brady is not invincible. He's been beaten in this position before, and he's coming up against a home team that's poised to have the championship there. They played the year because they wanted it there. They wanted the road to go through them. It's going to be cold. The Smith brothers are looking good in Green Bay on that defense. They wreaking havoc. It's going to be Green Bay. I mean, it's not going to be a cakewalk, but it's going to be Green Bay because they're not going to rely on Brady to beat them anyway. So that's not going to be a factor. It's going to be the running game that both of them have. Rodgers will not have another terrible game like he had against them before. In fact, if you think about it, since that game, Rodgers has been on a tear. And I think he got that right here in the front of his mind that y'all were the last people to whoop me down like that, and I'm going to return the favor. It's coming. It's coming.
All right. Well, I hate to be I don't hate it. Green Bay, the games that Green Bay lost were because teams out physical their offensive and defensive lines, and they got pushed up the middle. And as soon as if you hit Aaron Rodgers early and make him move off of his spot, Aaron Rodgers shuts down and becomes just an average quarterback. Tampa Bay will be the first NFL team to actually play and host the Super Bowl in their city. Tampa Bay is going to beat Green Bay.
Wow.
That's post special. You heard it here first.
Wow.
AFC Championship, we got the Kansas City Chiefs against the Buffalo Bills in the nightcap. The big question, and I don't think it's much of a question as much anymore unless something drastic happens over the next 2 days, is Mahomes going to be healthy enough to play? Not only is he in a concussion protocol, he hurt his left big toe in that game and was hobbling around, walking like he had a club foot. So I think the toe is more of a concern than the concussion. But who you got? Chiefs or the Bills in the battle of the young up-and-coming superstars at QB?
So again, it depends on who's going to be starting for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, if you got Henny starting, then you're gonna go with Buffalo because Buffalo has an offense that's clicking on all cylinders and their defense is tight. But if you got Patrick Mahomes taking snaps, then you got to lean towards the Chiefs because they still are the champions. So it just depends on who starts.
That's pretty much the consensus for me. It's the same way I look at it. If my man Mahomes is back there, and no, I don't want the haircut that he has. You can secure that rate without getting a haircut like that, everyone. But yeah, if he's on the field, I'm definitely going with Mahomes. But there's goes my heartstrings getting pulled again. I got a bunch of love for Stephon Diggs. He's a University of Maryland product. So if they win, I'm not mad at all at Buffalo either. But if Mahomes is on the field, we already know what the end score is. Victory.
I'm going Bills. Not just because of Josh Allen, but because I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to be healthy. I just don't. Even if he gets through the concussion protocol, he's got that toe injury, and y'all know those injuries don't go away in 1 week. They linger for an entire season. So if he's not mobile, and Buffalo, the defense, it turned on a switch last week against the Ravens. I think they're going to have problems with his lack of mobility, and he might look more like Russell Wilson this weekend, getting sacked and trying to get out of the way than his normal self. So I'm going Buffalo whether Mahomes is on the field or not.
I hear you. Ed?
I'll go Buffalo only, but I'm curious to see how the young man is going to handle the pressure and whether or not the moment is too big for him. Talking about Josh Allen, but I'm gonna go with Buffalo because I seen, like I said earlier when I was talking about KC, I've seen too many times where they just kind of sleepwalk through the season and barely escape teams. And I think that even though everything's on the line this week, I think if you develop that and you keep doing that over a period of time, you can get caught, and I think this might be an opportunity for him to get caught. And one thing about the weather, this is actually a good time. The weather is going to play no factor because Buffalo plays in horrible weather. Kansas City plays in horrible weather.
Right.
So I'm going to go with Buffalo, too. I agree with the professor and go with Buffalo.
And we said that all season, right? That they were going to get in a situation where they might not be able to flip that switch. I think this week is it.
I think losing Patrick Mahomes in that game flipped that switch for them. If Mahomes plays, Kansas City is going to beat Buffalo, and it might get ugly. Because let's be real, Buffalo's offense didn't look good against the Ravens.
No.
And Kansas City plays enough defense each year. They pick 2 or 3 games to play enough defense to turn it on, and they know how to beat them. So Mahomes plays, Kansas City wins because now they understand how fleet it is that they could be out of it. And I think that switch got flicked because of losing Mahomes. Now, if he doesn't play, Bills win easy.
Which
Next week, just so y'all can get prepared, we're going to talk about 2 subjects that are very important to us. You had 7 NFL head coaching vacancies, and as of today, 5 of them have been filled. The 6th one looks like it's going to be filled, and none of them been filled by black coaches. So we're going to spend a segment just on that next week. And we're also going to talk about what's going on in Houston and why Deshaun Watson is asking to get up out of there, which is kind of interrelated. So we're going to hit that next week. Don't think we didn't hear about that or think about that. Fellas, let's talk some NBA. And there's one real big story in the NBA. We haven't talked much NBA yet this year because the season started awkwardly. You're still having a lot of teams miss games. Hell, the Wizards have had to cancel a week's worth of games. Well, almost everybody on the team, coaches and players, have contracted COVID. So we haven't gotten to that. But we got to talk about the blockbuster trade. Your man James Harden finally worked his way out of Houston after showing his behind, pitching a fit, and then finally in a press conference in his last game in Houston, he said the organization isn't good enough, the players aren't good enough, this is ridiculous, I don't know what we're doing, and then walked out of the press conference. He was traded 24 hours later.
And see, Houston picked up a whole bunch of veterans, and they immediately addressed it. John Wall ain't no newbie. Boogie Cousins not a newbie. They were ready to address it immediately. They were there day one. They were trying to work it out. They didn't know exactly where his head was when they got there. I'm pretty sure they heard all the rumors just like we did. But I'm sure when they got there, look, this guy James Harden is a once in a lifetime talent. Clearly, by some of the numbers he's putting up, maybe we can link up with this guy and get some things done. But with the way he physically played, and clearly he became Golden Corral's MVP player for a little while there, 'cause it looked like he gained a hot 17 pounds real quick and then miraculously lost it all in Brooklyn. But maybe because he's wearing black, we just can't see it. But it was crazy the way he handled himself in the beginning. I do appreciate at least he showed up, but he could have checked his attitude a little bit better. But at the same time, would he be in the place that he desires if he didn't act a fool? So it's a bit of a catch-22 for me. How does everyone else feel about it?
Well,
In my
well,
opinion, go ahead, man.
I agree with you. Jay Wills, aka Kyrie, because I'm late. I agree with you as far as James Harden. Like, look, if a player in the NBA does not, or heck, any professional league these days, there's a blueprint on how to lead to get out of whatever situation you in, and you don't feel that it's conducive to what you are looking for or want at that particular time. James Harden played his cards right. He wanted to be with KD and Kyrie. Well, at least KD.
At least KD, yeah.
He wanted to be in Brooklyn, and miraculously, he's in Brooklyn. He's not in Orlando. He's not in New Orleans. He's exactly where he wanted to be, and that's in Brooklyn. As far as that 25 pounds, real quick, or 17, whatever it was, the rumors is out there in that he was actually wearing a bodysuit. You know, he's from LA. They got the best makeup artist in the world there. So just that's what I also saw him saying. It's not necessarily black. That might be a true rumor.
It might be.
Yeah, but anyway, we've seen this before. I'm not surprised. He's, if he's happy there, fine. But apparently, Houston's not necessarily a bad situation to be in, because Oladipo, who's part of that blockbuster trade, who ended up in Houston, before he even got there, he was talking about, well, I'm not going to stay here. But now all of a sudden, he's like, well, maybe we can do some things here. So,
absolutely. You got a point guard that's going to move the ball. He's going to run very well with DeMarcus Boogie Cousins once they, kind of get back into a flow, because Wall is coming back. I thought he was in a little bit more better shape than he is, but he's going to work his way back in there. And once things get going, and like I had mentioned, in my mind, all you really have to do is make the playoffs and win the first round. And when you will kind of emulate what Harden has done since he's been in Houston, outside of his crazy regular season numbers. I mentioned that only when he had Dwight Howard and then CP3. So the other 5 seasons, they didn't even make it out the second round. And half of those, they didn't even make it to the second round. James Harden has been a major talent, but he does not have playoff success like that at all, like half his peers. So not easy. It's going to be easy to replace them in the playoffs. Now, what is going to be hard is to replace the hype for Houston, the ticket sales. While he's putting up 40 points off 1,001 dribbles, everybody is coming in. He's, he was a show. People liked Houston for that. Now they will be back to the grind, and I don't think it'd be hard to replicate a lot of their playoff success, in my opinion.
The question is going to be, are they going to be contenders?
It's who going to be contenders?
Houston.
No,
Yeah.
Houston's not contenders. Houston is at best a 7-8 seed in the West, at best. But they weren't winning. They weren't winning with Harden anyway. So
Right. Because when they did get to the playoffs, he was a ghost. I understand.
He was a ghost.
Yeah.
Ghost. It's one of the weirdest things in the world. You replace one of the most impactful players in the league who doesn't have much playoff success, really. It's weird.
So let's talk about the fit in Brooklyn. Because when this came about, we were doing our little group message, and I told y'all, 1 ball, two people that got to have the ball in their hands. KD can play without the ball in his hands. He'll dribble a little bit every now and then, but KD can do his thing without the ball in his hands. Kyrie and James Harden are two of the most ball-dominant players in the NBA. And now that KD and James got to show how bad they can be and get everybody else involved without Kyrie because he needed a break. Did y'all see his interview today?
Yes.
He was laying down, looking into his laptop like, the only reason I'm doing this is because they're going to find me if I don't be here. Dude, you making $35 million a year. You're supposed to be here to win a championship. Yeah, you're right. You got that, Jay Will. Something is off with Kyrie.
But
he started talking about things that are bigger than basketball and all that. And he's right with that, but that's your job, dude. You can't just take a 2-week mental break because I don't know.
He don't want to play no more.
But here's the issue. Once you got $50 to $70 million in the bank, basketball probably to him is secondary. Even though we look at it and say, man, you making $30 million, $40 million a year. What the heck is going on? Why you flipping out? But Kyrie's an enigma because if you go on what he does off the court, as far as, supplementing WNBA player salaries, speaking out against black, for black causes, buying George Floyd's family a home. Right. He does so much off the court that you're like, well, is he crazy, or is he just like indifferent crazy as far as his job is concerned? So I think Kyrie, in my opinion, should move on and go perform, do things outside of basketball that actually makes him happy and that he's really making an impact. Because on the basketball court, I just think he's just reached a point in his life that it doesn't really matter to him anymore. And we can call him crazy, and that might be true, but he does too many things off the court that are good to label him just like cuckoo. Because crazy people don't necessarily perform like he does off the court.
So does Kanye West. I mean, he has a syndrome where he needs to be the center of attention, not necessarily because he wants you to see him doing good, but if he's being overshadowed on the basketball court, then he has to do it somewhere else. When he went to Boston, you got Tatum, you got Brown, these young guns coming up. It wasn't necessarily all about Kyrie. What was his issue in Cleveland? You ain't gonna sun me, all that kind of stuff with LeBron. Now he here. Now Harden has come in. You got KD. He feeling like the attention not enough on me. So let me walk away from practice. Let me do this. Let me do that. Yeah, great that he does great things. The people that are recipients of that will never tell you that Kyrie isn't the greatest person in the world. But the problem is mentally, he has this need to be the center of attention. And when he starts to act out and do things like that, it's because he wants the world focused on him. Remember, he said the world was flat. Now, he know good and well the world isn't flat. But these are things that he says in order to bring attention to himself because he thrives off of that. Everybody say, oh, look at Kanye, look at this. He does things to bring the center of attention to himself. Now, back to basketball. These cats that are coming together, they're I mean, offensively, I mean, wow. I mean, what else can you say? Outside of Durant, I mean, defensively, I don't see this as a team that could actually win it all. But you have to pay attention to them because they're in the East, number one, and they put together this juggernaut of an offense that if Nash can just get the ball control thing together between those two, I mean, they can have something phenomenal. I've been telling you guys since the beginning of the year that the NBA has the playbook on how to get out of town. And if any other sport wants to get somewhere else, if Watson wants to do that right now, they can get somewhere else because the NBA has perfected that. I don't want to be here anymore. Let me get out of town. I'm going to act like a you know what, and then they're going to get tired of me, and they're going to give me exactly what I want. I knew it was going to happen because this is what James wanted, and he forced his own hand to be able to do that because nobody else was going to stop him. and it went the way that he wanted it to.
And he blends so perfectly with KD. After the second game, it wasn't the first game, it was game 2, the game they played yesterday. And I was looking at the way Harden was playing. And it reminded me of how he used to flow in OKC when he was a sixth man. I believe Harden can change his game to a degree because at the same time, he can still catch and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
That's something Kyrie can't do. Kyrie is a point guard. Very similar to one of the guys we used to talk about all the time, John Wall. He can't really shoot. He is a point guard. He can initiate an offense. Harden can initiate the offense, can pass it to KD. He's not necessarily going to come off a pick, but he knows what he needs to do to create himself an open shot, whether he has the ball or not. So the question is, can they all coincide together and the offense run smoothly? And of course, we won't know until he hits the floor. But I think somebody's going to have to fall back.
Somebody's got to be the number 3. That's happening every big 3. Somebody's got to say, I'm going to sacrifice my game for the betterment of the team. I don't think that's in Kyrie, and it's not going to be KD.
And KD doesn't run the risk of it at all. He's just floating around, coming off picks, looking like a young Ray Allen. Yeah, he's 6'11".
Yeah, that's
Harden,
scary.
though he's not coming off as many picks, he can still play that type of ball and fall into a shooting guard's role. And he can get a little physical. He got kind of like that Charles Barkley build where he can push you around and throw you in the post a little bit. So there's different caveats to all their games.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not many caveats to Kyrie's game. Now, he's a dominant ball handler. He's an electrifying talent. But what you see at times is what you get. He was able to run that type of offense with LeBron, but that's because Chris Bosh was willing to fall back to you all. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm willing to just get rebounds. I'm willing to do this, that, and the third. Kyrie, from not a strategy standpoint, will to a degree be the oddball standing out. It's weird to call Kyrie an oddball, but on this particular team, you know, as far as basketball is concerned, but on this particular team, the way James is, he walks in and he gets you a triple-double the first game. Yesterday, he goes for 34 and 12 assists. The first game, 14 assists. The second game, 12 assists. You got your point guard. Mm-hmm. And he gave you 32 the first game and 34 the second game. Sounds like you got your shooting guard, too. All wrapped in one guy.
Right.
But at the same time, it's giving the ball away. He had 34 last night. KD had 40. So you're still moving the ball.
Yeah.
It's going
to be interesting to see how they blend this together. And I don't think the three of them remain together for the rest of the season.
Mm-mm.
One way or the other. I don't know if it's a deadline trade or Kyrie decides that, you know, things are more important and he needs to handle and just takes a break. All right. Real quick, I just wanted to shout out to UFC. Dana White and the UFC are at it again. They started off 2021 with a bang. They're back on Yas Island, a.k.a. Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. And they started with the show this past Saturday. It was their welcome back to network TV. The show was on ABC, and it featured former featherweight champion Max Holloway, who in a 5-round fight, fellas, threw 746 strikes, landed 447 of them, and just put on a striking clinic. It was ridiculous how his opponent survived 5 rounds. Calvin Kattar, I don't understand, but Dana White and UFC is doing it, and then they're gonna come back tomorrow. Yes, I said tomorrow, Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. UFC Fight Night will be on from Yas Island. Dana White realizes that a bunch of the country is going to be at home tomorrow because of the inauguration. So, hey, let's give him something to look at.
Smart.
He's so smart.
So the prelims start at 9. The main event starts at 12. It'll be over by 2 to 3 o'clock, right when Biden does his old thing. So Dana's doing his thing, and then they finish it with the first pay-per-view of the year, Saturday night, UFC 257, Dustin Poirier against Conor McGregor 2, and Dan Hooker against Michael Chandler in the co-main event. The winner of both of these fights will more than likely fight each other for the soon-to-be vacant lightweight title belt. So Dana's doing his thing with UFC. If you're a mixed martial arts fan, if you're a boxing fan, maybe not checked out UFC, I highly suggest you guys check it out because it's some good stuff. That fight card Saturday, not only did you have my man Max Holloway do his thing, there were 5 cards in the main event. The first 3 ended in first round knockouts. That's why I love UFC. Anybody can get it. Anybody can get it. You had your man, remember Joaquin Buckley? He was the dude that had the amazing knockout spinning back kick when the guy grabbed his foot and he just turned around and kicked him in the face and knocked him out. Well, he caught it. He got kicked in the head and got knocked out. Anybody can get in the UFC. That's why I gotta love it. So tomorrow morning, if you're at home, UFC, it's gonna be on ESPN, 9 a.m. through to about 3 o'clock, and then Saturday you got your pay-per-view. So please check it out. Dana White just doing this thing. Professor, it's your time, brother. You ready?
I'm ready. All right, good evening, everybody. Once again, these are your post takes for this evening. We'll start out with the NFL. So Michael Thomas was truly still hurt. Nothing is new. Players and teams will always withhold true injuries, especially with so much on the line. He was nothing but a decoy against the Bucs. It is unfortunate because they needed his true skill set, because in the second half, the Bucs were able to neutralize Sanders and Cook was just a dumpster fire. Saints did not run the ball with Kamara enough, and Breeze had his worst game of the season, and the recipe for disaster was complete.
They're saying Michael Thomas is going to have 2 to 3 surgeries to fix his problem with his foot.
Right. Wow. He probably should have never came back again this season, but you know how that goes. Salute to the Bills Mafia. $360,000 worth of salutes and shout outs. How great is this fan base? It makes me a little envious that the nation's capital did not think of doing this. Die-hard, caring, and faithful Buffalo Bills fans donated this amount, $360,000, to Lamar Jackson's favorite charity. Outstanding. Beautiful. When most, if every team does something to add insult to injury, this fan base does the unthinkable and applies a healing salve or ointment to their opponent's wounds. I like your QB, but you now have a surrogate fan. Hard not to root for the Bills. We know their heartbreak. To the NBA. In a feel-good story, Delonte West was found. He was found light by working. What in the world? Yeah, y'all gotta forgive me. I work so hard, I don't even proofread my stuff. But Delonte West was found working at the same drug rehab center that he attended. As much as we can trash a majority of owners, Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, continues to be one of the stand-up owners in all of sports. Absolutely. He is responsible for assisting his former star player and getting him into this rehab center in Florida named Rebound when he was down and out and homeless. It goes deeper. Cuban went to the actual gas station, and we've seen the photos of Delonte. He went to this gas station himself that was located in Dallas where Delonte was panhandling and scooped him himself. He didn't send anybody else. Mark Cuban went himself. After getting him clean, he reconnected Delonte with his mother. All I can say is, wow, this is the stuff that I respect, and it hits home, fellas. To Major League Baseball, just shaking my head because showing the junk gets you punked and fired. Now, former Mets GM Jared Porter was unceremoniously canned for sending explicit pics to a female reporter in 2016 when he was director of pro scouting for the Chicago Cubs. I guess he did not learn anything from Brett Favre when he did something similar. What is wild is that he sent 62 consecutive messages to this lady without her even answering one text. She finally, after he sent the lewd pictures, told him to stop and to leave her alone. I guess the other 60 some odd texts, he couldn't take the hint. Well, he'll have plenty of time to think about it now, won't he? To the
So you
MMA,
telling me that-
UFC, as Big Ray has just mentioned, but this is another nugget I got to throw on top of that fire. Conor McGregor may be getting ready for a big fight this weekend, but he will have another battle in the legal arena and courtroom. A woman has filed a personal injury suit against Conor and is seeking several millions for an incident that happened in 2018 in Dublin, Ireland. The woman's mother is also filing a smaller suit. No extensive details are being given at this time, but it is important to point out that no charges were filed and the authorities are continuing to look into this claim. We know that Conor can be out of control at times, but I hope that it does not extend to injuring and abusing women. We shall see what comes of this. Needless to say, we can guess two people who would like to see him lose this weekend. To college football, Sarah Fuller's star keeps rising. The University of Vanderbilt's place kicker will be honored as a special guest of President-elect Joseph Biden tomorrow for the festivities. We are also grateful to witness history being made once again by this young lady. The wave of emotions that she has been experiencing must be monumental. She is worth a follow on social media, and maybe we can get her as a guest on this here show. To the PGA. Well, brothers, Tiger's back is at it again. I think the last green jacket that we witnessed at Augusta in 2019 was Tiger's swan song and curtain call. It was gratifying because I understood that then. Tiger needed to have a procedure done to alleviate nerve pain in his lower back, a procedure known as microdiscectomy, and it will cause him to miss two major events, or two of the next events. We know that he will still be the lure and draw for every round he plays in any tournament, but we will never see him at the mountaintop again of any majors. Still, he has given us so much as fans, we just get greedy. He is still the greatest golfer of all times. And those are our post takes for this Tuesday night. Turn it back over, Big Ray.
Yeah, this will be Tiger's 5th back surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's an issue. He if he continues down this road, he's going to have to stop playing golf because we want him to have a happy, long life for his children and hopefully grandchildren. So, a couple other things that caught our eye. Then we're going to get out of here. Like to say congratulations to the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team. They started their push for the 2020-2021 Olympic gold medal with a 4-0 win versus Colombia on Monday. Both teams will play again Friday. The U.S. team is using these games in their training camp to figure out which 20 women will represent them in the 2020-2021 Olympics, if they happen. Shout out to my girl, Clarissa Shields. Clarissa Shields is done with waiting for other promoters to help push female boxing. She announced this week that she's going to be headlining an all-female pay-per-view on March 5th on what they call Fight TV, which is a streaming service. Clarissa Shields' promotion company is actually promoting this. So she is taking things under her own control and saying, if you won't promote us enough, if you won't put us out there, we'll put our own selves out there. So do your thing. Shields 10-0 will be fighting Marie-Eve Dakari, who's 17-0, to unify the 154-pound super welterweight titles. So, again, big props. She's doing her thing. She's the baddest thing out there. Jay Wills got a little company. So, shout out to everybody. On the NFL note, just today they announced that the NFL Combine in Indy has been canceled. They're going to be doing all the psychological testing and interviews virtually, and physicals and on-field work will be done at each individual pro day at individual schools. Look, little extra music. We don't have the rights to that, but we enjoyed the tunes.
We don't have the rights to that.
Hey, don't be getting us that in the mail.
The NBA has announced that the 2021 G League season will be played at Disney in a bubble. So they're going to continue with the G League, but they're going to sequester them. But they didn't do that with the NBA. Just saying. All right, fellas, it's time for our final post so we can get up out of here. What you got for us, Kyrie?
Hopefully I have a good game. It's been a while. Little rusty. You caught me laying down while I was doing my interview, but the only reason I did it was, so I wouldn't get fired. So to James Harden, KD, I hope to see you guys soon. The earth is flat. Everybody stay safe.
Who was that with you, Kyrie? Kyrie, who was the young brother with you?
That was my nephew, and he was the real reason I was late. That's the nephew I was referring to earlier. That guy.
Okay.
J3, what you got for us, brother?
Just real quick, man. I just hope and pray we have a real peaceful day tomorrow. It's a long time coming. These last 4 years was something else. Let's just hope and pray it's peaceful.
Hey, Professor, what you got for us?
Yeah, just want to shout out the NFL. Occasionally, they do get some things right. Earlier this year, they highlighted Jerome Boger as well as the other black referees and honored them to have an all-black officiating crew for a Monday night game. But we definitely got to give shout out to Sarah Thomas. She'll be the first woman to officiate the Super Bowl this year. So hats off to the NFL for moving some barriers. We'll get into the ones that they won't move next week, but God bless you.
It's on you, Ed.
Well, first of all, I'm looking forward to the conference championships this week. But on a more important note, to me at least, we don't deal with politics, and I'm not going to start right now. But I just want to hope for a successful and peaceful transition to a new administration tomorrow. Let us not forget that there are several million people that didn't agree with this particular transition, and we want to keep them in our prayers and thoughts as well, because they are Americans just like us. So I just hope everyone stays safe, and that's all I have.
Man, it's amazing how we think alike sometimes. Tomorrow starts a new, hopefully, era for this country as we swear in a new president. But before we get to tomorrow, I want to point out and highlight today we passed the 400,000 mark in lives lost in this country. And earlier, late last week, we passed the 2 million mark in lives lost throughout this world. Just think about that. 400,000 Americans have passed COVID-related disease in less than a year. More than any world war, any war we've ever been in. So please keep the millions of family members and friends in your thoughts and prayers that have lost loved ones, and the hundreds of thousands that are still currently in the hospital or at home dealing with this. As we move on to this new administration, hopefully they can get things together and move it in the right direction, but we got to give them time and be patient. And the only way we can help them now is mask up, stay socially distant as much as possible, and as much as possible with this new variant out there, stay home. Until we can get this thing cleared up and vaccines, whether you like them or not, but give the new administration time. That's all I want to put in there. All right, folks. Sorry to end it on a down note, but these are real things we're dealing with. We'd like to thank you all for tuning in and listening. We appreciate the time and opportunity to share our positions on sports with you. We're here each and every Tuesday, 7 p.m., same bet time, same bet channels. But you can also catch, if you don't catch us live, you can catch us on our Positional Sports Talk Show YouTube channel, our Facebook page. You can go to your favorite podcast site, look for Positional Sports. Hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on Facebook at Positions on Sports. We really want to hear from you. We want to keep getting bigger and better in 2021 and hope to see all of y'all in 2021. And don't forget about our Twitter account, Positions on SPO1. Hit us up. We look forward to hearing from you. This has been Positional Sports Talk Show. Peace.
See ya.